All right, so episode 54. So this week I'm talking about excuses. Now, there are two types of excuses. The excuse that you make to yourself that prevents you from accomplishing certain goals. And then there's excuses you make on behalf of other people to make them feel not as bad. But recently, within the past few weeks, I have noticed two things specifically. First, I'm making a lot of excuses for myself right now. And then second, I've noticed other people make some interesting excuses to get them out of certain situations, and I've found them to be quite comical. But first, we're going to talk about my personal excuses. So there are just a lot of little things that I continue to put off like day after day for no reason at all. Like I haven't gone to the gym for a month now. I haven't been listening to as many audiobooks as I did last year as I would like. I gave up on vitamins altogether. And so it's easy for me to make an excuse to myself and justify it every day. For example, I keep telling myself, you know what, there's no point in going to the gym right now. I've got a trip coming up in like 10 days, and then in 20 days, I'm going to be moving, and then I've got just more important things to do with my time right now. You know, I'll never get in a good groove anyways, so why do it? I'll just wait till we move into our new spot. And then when that time comes around, I'm sure I'll just come up with a new excuse for that. But when you really think about it, there's really no reason. It doesn't make any sense. I can take an hour out of my day right now. I just don't want to accommodate it. So in efforts to better understand this, I started looking into the psychology behind making excuses. The general definition of an excuse is an attempt to lessen the blame attaching to a fault or offense, seeking to defend or justify. Now, psychologists believe that excuses hold a deeper meaning, though. It stems from an unconscious desire to protect ourselves against anxiety and shame, and excuses allow you to shift your focus from these deeper issues and redirect your focus to issues that are like relatively easier to place blame. And the example I read said, if someone asks you why you failed the test, right? The anxiety and shame start building up, and you redirect it and say something like, well, the test really wasn't that fair. So instead of focusing on the criticism and the lack of preparation that you probably put forth for the test, you choose another avenue that makes it seem like it was never ultimately in your control. Now, some people believe making excuses can almost always be traced back to one of these three reasons. It's either fear, uncertainty, or lack of purpose. And fear can be associated with failure, right? People make excuses because of either like self-doubt or lack of confidence. When it comes to uncertainty, if we face a scenario that we're not necessarily certain about, our brains prefer making excuses over dealing with the certain situation. And then lastly, lack of purpose. So people who make excuses also often come across as lazy or uninspired. And in order to combat this, you should focus on setting goals you're passionate about, and you'll naturally stop making excuses for yourself. But now let's talk about the good stuff. Why do people make excuses for the benefit of others? Now, I personally love questioning other people's excuses. If a person makes up an excuse like on my behalf, though, it's involving me, that's different. I generally won't question the person. It's whatever. I'm not a social person, and chances are I probably don't want to go either. So I'm not going to question you and make you feel uncomfortable. But if I'm in a room with a group of people and I hear someone come up with an absolute just idiotic excuse at someone else's expense, my ears perk up. And my sole purpose is now just to expose you, to expose the lie that you created for yourself. My wife, my siblings, close friends, I will put you on the spot 100% of the time. And there's nothing better than seeing the rage behind your eyes as I insert myself into this conversation. It's just way too good to pass up. And you can't be mad at me. You're the one lying to someone else here. All I'm doing is trying to make you work out your thought process. So hopefully by the next time you make an excuse, you'll learn to be a little better at it. But I'd be remiss if I didn't discuss some of the best excuses in the playbook to get you out of something. So I'll start with my personal favorite. This is perfect for any exit to any late afternoon to night activity. You just say, well, all right, I got to go feed the dog. Works every time. What sick person is going to say, come on, stay a while, the dog will be fine? Maybe 1 in 100 people would actually have the audacity to say something like that. No one is going to say, you should stay here and make your pet starve. That's absurd. And for that reason, this is one of the best ones. This is one of my favorite reasons for even having a dog. And I can't wait for the day when I can use a kid as an excuse too. I mean, for the first 5 years of their life, I'll never have to go to any social event ever. Unfortunately, I mean, after that, it kind of backfires because your kid then gets hobbies of their own and now you're required to be there on their behalf. But for those first 4 or 5 years, it's going to be all excuses for me. No one will ever see me. The only way people will really see me is probably through this podcast. How about the I'm taking a friend to the airport excuse? I think this is a great excuse for a couple reasons. Number one, it can literally be at any time of the day or night. I mean, the airport never closes. 2, it's versatile. You can use this excuse to get out of something completely. You can use it to show up fashionably late to a social event, or you can use it as a hard out. And then number 3, there's no follow-up. There may be 1 or 2 questions the person will ask, oh, who are you taking to the airport, or where are they going? But that's it. I mean, the only negative thing I could see about this excuse is now this person thinks that you're open to doing favors like that. So I guess be wary of who you're using it on. But now there's the classic, I'm not feeling too well, but I think this excuse can get a little dicey. When crafting an excuse, you have to think just 3 steps ahead. You can't just be out here blurting out some random shit. I think this is why it bothers me so much whenever I hear other people give horrible excuses. You need to think about the potential follow-up questions you're about to get, and you need to be prepared to back it up with a specific level of detail. Because the second you get caught off guard, I mean, I think you're done for. The excuse sharks are just circling you, and you're done for. You're locked in. I was actually just listening to a podcast with Larry David recently, and he talks about how whenever he gets invited to a dinner party, he asks them who's going before he decides to commit or not, which is a hilarious thing to do. But to me, it's already you're too deep. You're basically admitting to this person, your schedule is free, you just don't know if you want to go or not. But the key to a good excuse is the backup details if necessary. You need to be able to pull it out at any second, because at its basic level, it's a lie, right? It's either a lie to yourself or a lie to someone else, but it's the effort you put behind it that makes it feel not as bad. It's a little white lie, and you say to yourself, oh, it's better this way, no harm done. I'm being nice here. I'm letting them down easy. I'm a good guy in this scenario. And the more detail you put behind this excuse, the better you feel justifying the lie, because it's more believable. It's the time you've invested putting into the lie that makes it okay, I think. You're doing it for them because you don't want to hurt their feelings. And having this person realize that there's literally a dozen other things you'd rather do than be with them, that's not a good feeling. But if they sniff out the lie, then that feeling is 1,000 times worse. So you got to make sure your details are down packed. For instance, let's go back to the sickness excuse. You need to pick an illness that can go away quickly and most likely won't be brought up again. Something like food poisoning, right? This is the perfect out. It knocks you out for maybe 24 hours, and they're not going to follow up about your explosive diarrhea. The only question you might get is, where did you eat? So as long as you can kind of take care of that question, back it up quick, then you're in the clear. I think it was Trevor Wallace who did the skit about shitting your pants. This is the ultimate excuse to just get out of anything. You just say, hey, I have to go. I just shit my pants. Now, there's no detail needed when it comes to this excuse. You just have to actually, back it up and follow through. You have to shit your pants. But if someone just told me, hey, I shit my pants, I have to go, I'd be like, what the hell are you still doing here? Get out of here. Now, for me, this is a little too big of a commitment. If there's no other way to get out of a social situation than shitting your pants, I think you really need to reevaluate your life choices. Something else that I think also is a little bit too big of a commitment is saying something like, I think I'm coming down with a cold. There's potential that this could lead to a follow-up, how are you feeling message? And if they follow up in the coming days, that leaves room for them to reschedule, and that's obviously no better. But a cold could also be like days long, which means you can't risk going out in public and seeing this person for at least 48 hours, I think, after making the excuse. So you just lock yourself into your house for could be the entire weekend. And I think anything with a sickness, though, or like family emergency or car problems, that's just bad karma coming your way. I don't even like the last minute like medical appointment. Like I never go down those routes personally. I don't want to tempt fate like that. But another excuse that was kind of straddling this line of bad karma was urgent financial matters. But I actually kind of like this one. I think it's a good caught off guard last minute excuse. You're like, oh, I can't go out. I just received a notification from my bank that there's some fraudulent activity going on my account. I've got to get this sorted out. Like generally, I think there's no follow-up. The person is usually going to be understanding. No one is going to be like, hey, don't worry about someone spending thousands of dollars on your credit card. Stay with me instead. Like, I think it's a good out. And getting on the phone with the bank representative can take hours on end. And these people don't know. So yeah, I like that excuse. I think it's a good one. I saw one person on Reddit say a common excuse that they used was, I'm too old. That's it. Now, I really like this one. I think it's straight to the point, and you can't really argue with this because it's a matter of personal opinion. You can preach all you want and try to get someone to go out with you. You're justifying all of these reasons. Be like, no, it's going to be great. You can come out, have fun with us. And all this person has to do is say, no, I don't think so. I think I'm too old. But I wonder what age is socially acceptable for a person to start doing this. There's a lot of different factors that come into play, I think, with this excuse, depending on what the activity is. But once you feel comfortable enough to say, you know what, I'm too old, I think it's just smooth sailing from there on out. You don't have to go to anything. But I think that's all I've got for this week. If you have any amazing excuses that you use, please let me know. Please send them my way. I hate going out and doing social activities. And if you're someone who makes excuses often, please take my advice and start thinking these things through a little bit more. Because if you're around me and I hear a shit excuse, this is your warning. I'm going to call you out on it. So be ready. But I appreciate you listening. And yeah, I'll talk to you next week.